Alright, hey, how's it going? So you said, hello, Mr. Shark. I've been watching your stuff for a while. You're through when you started coaching. Wanted to say the most educational stuff I've ever seen. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. You're plat 4 /3 at the moment. You've been taking the game seriously recently. You're a top main. You mainly play Camille, Tryndamere, and Darius. So what I think I struggle with. I tend to not ignore my map. Quite often. Okay, I'm assuming this meant you do ignore your map. You tend to also have a lot of team fighting problems. You don't know where to position, where to go, and how to. Most of it's alright. For the longest time you've been confused with what to do with the first waves. Is it always the same? Get push, back, and contest the freeze. Watch wave management video on mid, but on top it's different, or it's harder because the lane is longer. Yep, it's definitely different. The second question is, when do I go to team fight, when do I split? Generally the 3 champs I play are hardcore splitters, but in this case as Nasus I can't really dive him and I'm just a wave shoving bot, while he is TP and can join a Baron fight after catching the waves. Last thing I chose this game, kind of below average, but I wanted to get thoughts on the Nasus matchup. It's been hard on me in Kales and Nasus because no matter how much I beat them in laning phase, it seems they still slowly kill me after the first item. Okay, we will take a look at all these. Now in regards to like, okay, I'll talk about the top lane wave control thing first. So we'll probably see this game, but there's like a few things you can do with the top wave. The first thing is that because the wave is longer, you can actually stack up the waves a bit easier. Like crashing 3 waves in mid doesn't generate you as much pressure as it does top. And what you can do in top is you can, I think, and this is what I think you should look for if you are the one that's winning the matchup. I think you can look to crash 3 waves and then base, like get a cheater recall, kind of like the term LS coined for it. We'll see if you have an opportunity to do it this game. You base, you come back on the map with a item advantage, and you should be able to freeze the wave, and it's much more difficult for people to unfreeze the wave in top lane. So yeah, we'll take a look at that. I think just kind of as a general rule, if you are the the person who's winning the matchup, or you're favored in the matchup, you should look to push 3 waves, especially in top lane, and bounce and then crash it back, and probably look for a cheater recall. If you're not, like if you're the losing champion, you know, maybe you're versus a difficult ranged bully or something, then you'd probably want to let the wave come to you and you're just looking to farm. But we'll see what you do with your wave anyway. And then yeah, we'll kind of just like cover this other stuff as the game goes. So also at the end, I'll just like write up a bunch of notes and explain to you. So yeah, should be all good. So this matchup, I believe Tryndamere wins early and then loses after 1 item, kind of like what you said here. I actually watched this matchup semi-recently in a pro game, so I'm just going to show this to you. So this was a game played in my region, in Oceania, about a month ago, I think, a bit more than that, where it was Tryndamere vs Nasus, and the Tryndamere got a really big lead in the early game. Also, interestingly, he built Hullbreaker first. So I don't know if this is, I think this was like fairly normal at the time. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is like matchup specific. To be honest, I don't know enough about like top Tryndamere's itemization to say if this is like the best, but it could be something you think about, because I think it would make it a lot easier to kind of punish Nasus under tower, because I think it's true that you can't really dive Nasus, but also I think if you have Hullbreaker, you can kind of ignore him. Like you can basically like walk under his tower, he withers you, you E away, and then like during that time, like your creeps are just hitting the tower with Hullbreaker. So again, not sure if that'll end up being relevant, but we'll see. And oh, also I'm assuming you asked this question to me because I saw this before. So you're asking, when is it best to go Serelda for the item versus Nasus? Yeah, I think Serelda is a lot better than Black Cleaver. I think Black Cleaver is pretty not good, to be honest. So I'd always prefer that you go Sereldas against these like tankier champs rather than that. So here, like you win the matchup early, so you should be able to get the push. It should be a slow push pretty much as possible. This is good, like you have control, you deny the creep. You can just set this up to be a slow push. You know that both jungler, or actually you know that their jungler started top and your jungler started bot, which gives you quite a lot of advantages. You get to get prior on the wave. He's going to have to be scared, like really scared, when the wave pushes back out. This is good. You know you win level 1 trades. That was a good punish. I think Doran Shield is the correct item to start with. I guess you could maybe go Blade in this matchup. Or you could even start Longsword, but yeah, could be a little bit greedy. This is good. You just want to shove it as slowly as possible. Okay, so this is bad. Yeah, this was quite bad, I think. I'm not sure if you realized how bad this was, but the problem is, if this wave crashes too soon, it means it's kind of like going to bounce out awkwardly, and it also means that you're not going to be able to shove the 3rd wave as fast as possible, and that's going to make your wave control really awkward. So by spinning through these and just like also just like dropping extra orders on these creeps. I think you like run through and hit 2 creeps, and then also you kind of like fast push the rest of the wave. Just because you've done that, like if you hadn't done that, this wave crashes just a little bit later, and it would be here instead of under here. And now the problem is that you have no way to get a cheater recall, because this wave is going to get thinned out, and also it's going to take you forever to kill this wave, because you don't have, like, you can't really just like walk up and hit them. Like, I think ideally the wave is out here, you can just like E through it and just like fast shove this third wave as quickly as possible so that you can get a base off. Instead, you kind of don't get to push this in any reasonable time, and also it's just quite annoying for you to CS this. Like, yeah, you take, yeah, it's pretty annoying. You take tower shots whenever this happens. So like, the ideal is that this has crashed like a while ago. You had based, bought say like longsword or Doran's blade or whatever, and then you come back to base. Or sorry, you come back to lane, and then you have item advantage, and the wave is frozen on your side, and that would be a really difficult position for Nasus to play. But instead, I would say you've gifted Nasus a pretty free early game, despite having the winning matchup level 1, or rather just despite having the winning matchup early game. It hasn't converted to anything. Like, he remains full HP, he only has a slight CS deficit, and it's mainly from him missing them, rather than you denying them, other than like the very first 2 or so. So yeah, so far, essentially you have a winning matchup, but you haven't used it at all, and he's getting a free lane. And if you do struggle with like those champs like Kayle and Nasus, like, yeah, if they get a free lane, it's going to be very problematic for you, but you have the tools to really shut them down and build a big lead over them. I think nice to take some trades here. Yeah, so like when this wave is pushing back to you here, this is like really good for you, because your jungler is topside and their jungler will be bot side. So this is why if you had come back to lane with an item advantage and the wave frozen, it would be extremely difficult situation for Nasus to play out, because he's going to be weak sided here because his jungler started top, so his jungler will be pathing bot. And for you it's the opposite, your jungler started bot. Yeah, so you see Volibear right here. Oh, let me just check. Always check this. You can see mouse. Yeah, we see Volibear bot. So yeah, if this were like super frozen, it would be really good. I also think it looks like you're putting a few too many orders on the wave. Like, you want your Fury back up. So I do actually kind of understand this. But you just need to be really careful about just making sure this pushes to you. I guess it's fine. You're mainly just last hitting them, which is all good. So yeah, this should be, I would say, about a minute from now, you probably kill this guy. I think it should be really hard for him to ever get this wave in, as long as Echo like realizes. And maybe you could like ping him to come help. I think here, this is, no, I mean, it's still gonna push to you. I guess it's fine. You want your Fury, so I think it's fine. Actually, no, I don't think it's fine. If you're stacking up your Fury so that when a fight happens, like, you're just strong for it, that's good. But the problem is here, you're putting orders on the creeps, which you don't need to put on orders anyway, and then you lose HP putting order on the creeps, like tanking this E, and then you instead spend your Fury on the HP. So it was just kind of a net 0, but it meant that this wave pushed out slower to you. So yeah, it's like, ideally the wave would probably be about here by now, which would make this gank a lot freer than it is, although... So you're pinging back, but I think this is a free gank. Like, I'm not sure why you ping back here. Maybe you just want him to come closer, or maybe you're scared of like how many creeps he has. But Volibear's showing bot, and like you knew he was bot just based off like where he started. So this should be a really free kill. I guess, yeah, maybe you're just pinging for him to wait a bit longer. This guy's dead on my screen. I'm like 99% sure. Maybe he can ghost out, but I think he had TP actually. You ghost in. I think this is fine. There are a lot of creeps, so you want to be careful not to take too much damage. Okay, yeah, so you die, which is really bad and unnecessary. You should just realize that probably by like, when this guy gets to about 40% health, that he's like completely dead. I think here even, you could probably walk away, or you could just use your Q now, or like you could go farm some more Fury. And definitely now, like, now this guy's like super dead, so I think this is a pretty bad death, because this should be, Nasus should be completely fucked off this, and to be honest, maybe he still is, because the wave is super good for you, but you gave him like a lot, you've just given Nasus a really free early game, like way more than he should have gotten, because of like how you manage your first 3 waves, and then also how you played this game. Like, I think Nasus, the game he should be like going 0-10 this game probably, and you've made it to where he can actually play properly, pretty much. But here, I think, yeah, you probably do need to just let this come to you. Maybe you can... Yeah, here's that item. I can't remember what that's called. Warden's Mail or something. Okay, so... Oh, wait, let's... I think you overcommitted to this trade a little bit. I think this point, it's pretty good. You're punishing Nasus's Q cooldown at the moment. Use E. I think that the trade right now looks super good, right? But I think you overstay just a little too much. I think you can walk away here. I think you just need to be thinking about like how often Nasus's Q is up. Because like you want to extend the trade as long as possible for your auto attacks, but you also don't want to wait. You don't want to end the trade when like another cycle of his cooldowns have come back up, right? So basically like you stay just a little bit longer, and so instead of winning this trade like 60% HP to 30, you're now end at like 40%. So it goes from being a really good trade to not that great a trade. But the wave remains in a good spot for you. That's cool. You're just going to be able to farm this out. This is fine. What happened here? How did you lose all your health? Okay, yeah, this is pretty greedy in my opinion. So I think you probably just need to let this crash. The thing is, like, if you are strong enough, you should definitely hold this wave. Like, holding this wave is ideal, but I think the problem is that you're going to lose so much HP for it that any pressure you gain by freezing the wave is just instantly lost, you know? Because, like, now you're not really, like, healthy enough to actually do anything with this. And so instead, Nasus just gets to crash waves for free and is, like, actually denying you off CS in a lane that you should be winning, especially after you got the gank. So this is, like, super, super bad, and I'd be pretty upset if I were your jungler right now, because it's like, I ganked your lane basically, and you have a winning matchup, and you're losing. Or you're not really losing, but like, you're not winning either. Okay. Maybe go take the honey fruit or something. Take the Gromp? Yeah, I mean, if you can do this, it's good. Okay, yeah, I like the Gromp. I respect the Gromp. That was a good decision. Actually better than the honey fruit. I like that. Come back to lane. Yeah, that's fine, I think. You probably just gotta like let these waves come to you because you just like lost too much health from before. I think. Okay. When this guy, if this guy ever uses Wither on you, you should look to just trade on him as soon as it's gone, basically. It should be that he has to wither you when you E onto him, basically, right? And otherwise he shouldn't use his wither. But in this lane, like, wither is the most important cooldown, right? So you need to think about it a lot. And if he ever uses it, just like randomly, you should look to like ghost on him and just like all in him, basically. Because if he doesn't have it, you're just gonna destroy him, basically. Okay, so you popped ghost sort of weirdly here. I think this guy's dead again. Yeah, I don't think he needed to ghost here at all. I can maybe understand using it. It's not like the longest cooldown, but it's like pretty unnecessary. You get this kill. Now you're pushing. Yep, you ping for assistance, but if you manage to get this wave in, it's super good. Okay, you crash it. So you're in a super, super good spot right now. Again, just the only question would be if rushing Hullbreaker is better. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's better. Maybe you should just think about the fact that it's a possibility, and you can decide. I think you probably go like Kraken in this game, so you can deal with the tanks, and I think that's a fun rush as well. Right on this guy. Yeah, okay, so this is really good. Like, you get the wither early and you still have your E, so you should be able to grab a kill here. Okay, good. You clear out this wave. Echo's heralding top. Okay, yeah, you're gonna get really, really fed. Okay, so volleys here, and you see Yone has mid pro, so this is gonna be a 2v2 at best. And to be honest, on just like looking at the champs, you can win the 2v2. In fact, you probably should win the 2v2. But I think if you look at your cooldowns, like no flash, ghost, or ignite, you're like really useless here. So I guess like maybe you haven't realized Yone's coming up, so you haven't backed out, but you're playing super, super aggressively right now when you shouldn't. And I think Looks like it's gonna be pretty bad. Maybe you can E out. Did he flash? Oh no, that was Echo's flash. Okay, so you die, and this is a really, really bad death. So not only do you give 450 gold to Yone, but more importantly, you lose all the golden XP here. So you lose one wave right now from being dead, and it looks like you're gonna lose another wave as Nasus crashes it, and also you lose 2 plates. So this was like at a high level, I'd say not a game-losing death, but it potentially like completely changes the matchup from you hard winning into you now like not really winning or like even losing. So I think you should just be like a bit more aware, like both of you should maybe look at the map a little more, like you were saying, be aware of like the mid-prior situation, but I also think you didn't really realize that you had no cooldown, so it wasn't really an opportunity to look for you to be aggressive anyway. And you should really value your tempo of just like basing and getting back on the map. Now this is a little risky, I would say. The only reason is that your jungler is currently bot side. You don't know where Volibear is, but I think like, okay, Volibear was top of 4, so it would make sense for him to be bot side, but you have fairly decent bot side vision and you don't see him at the moment. So I'd say it's pretty risky to trade on this wave, and you have 2 wards, so I'd probably like be very careful about using my E here and look to place some wards before you go to aggressive. Okay, now we see Volibear bot side. Yeah, so now you're given like the green light to play really aggressive. Good, you realize that this guy wasted his wither. So really good punish, and there's no way this guy lives, right? He's just super dead. Nice. So good punish by you. Really good punish. You probably could have done that a couple more times in lane there. Or not kills, but like big trades, right? You push this all the way in. You take Krugs, which is perfect. And then should be a base, or maybe red. Red might be a bit too much. But anyway, you come back on the map, hit the Grump. So this was really efficient. Everything you did here was really efficient. Base of ward, good. This is strong fundamentals at the moment. Let's see again here. I don't think you should use your E like this, to be honest. Like, you need to be valuing your E a lot more, because like you can get it up quite quickly, right? But here you can't get it that quickly because like you don't have access to just autoing these waves over and over. And I think like there you used it for literally 1 creep, whereas you should be holding it to punish if he ever wastes his wither. So like here, okay, like right here, when he wastes his wither, all you need to do is not play aggressive for the duration of the wither, and then as soon as it's over, you can look to like all in this guy. And something you can do is you can actually go on him when he doesn't have wither, force out his ult, and just E away, and then you can look to trade again later. But because you look to trade with him while he has withered you, it just like you just lose the trade, and now you kind of lose a lot of your pressure. So yeah, I think you need to think a little, like, yeah, I don't know, you keep trading into the wither, which is pretty weird. You need to think more about like what the most important cooldowns are of the matchup, and then look to kind of punish those, because I think you should win these if you play it well, but you just kind of keep doing it at the wrong times and you're losing your kind of split pressure as a result. So you take these Krugs, you take the wave, this is all good. This guy chases you. I think you could probably ghost instead of flashing to get out, but you'd have to activate it like as instantly as soon as it comes up. And actually, do you die even if this... I'm thinking like even if he catches you for the stun with ghost, I think you don't die. Like even if you activate ghost late, I'm pretty sure he can't burst you because he doesn't seem like he's down 2 levels. So anyway, I think you could have kept flash there. Either way, you take the Grump, which is good. You pass straight out of base, which again is good. Should be pushing this wave as far as we can. Okay, yeah, so when you're in this sort of situation, this is what you said you sort of struggle with. Like, you're not sure about when you should just, like, hit towers and when you should group. I think if you are versus a champion that you can't really, like, do anything to the tower verse, then you can, like, look to roam to team fights. Like, I think now is a really good opportunity. You have, like, Super Prior and Dragon spawning, so you can easily run down to this. But also just keep in mind that some champs you can just ignore under tower. So, like, right here, when this guy had withered you, I think you could have just, like, walk to the back of this and look for orders on the tower and then just even proxy the next wave. I wouldn't do it in this situation because the drag is spawning. But I think in other times when you just like don't have anything to do, you could look to do that. So I think it's a really good roam from you here, running down to this team fight. And team fighting is another thing you kind of said you struggle with, so let's have a look at that. Okay, yeah, there were some pretty big problems. There's that at the end of the team fight when you get 2 kills. Okay, I mean, team fight's completely over. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the start. So there's like a couple things. The first thing is that you were really, really indecisive. So this is a big problem because oftentimes it doesn't matter which decision you make as much as if you just make the decision quickly. So I think here you should just try and commit to something straight away rather than second guessing yourself. The second thing is that it absolutely is the wrong decision to go for Volibear. You should think in your mind, like before the fight starts, who the most valuable targets are. And for me, this Twitch and Zyra are probably top of the list. And once this Volibear's away from them, they're like 2 squishies over here with no protection, and you have a Katarina right next to them. So, like, yeah, I would say it's better if you don't second guess yourself and you are just committed to the Volibear. But the best play overall is to just like run at these 2 squishies right now and kill them both. You end up killing them both anyway, but it's because your team is so far ahead. I think if the fight were like, you know, if you guys were completely even in gold, that could be the difference between winning and losing this fight. So, you kill this guy, take the tower. I think you probably base. Do. Okay, so here you're pathing top out of base, but this is a mistake straight away. You need to quickly assess the map and see kind of like where you can get the most CS. So right now, you know Katarina's going to farm top. Vayne is currently farming bot, although she is recalling. So you should either be going mid or bot here, but instead you're going to the wrong location. So you come back on the map and you see that Echo is farming this mid wave, which means, oh, and Vayne is farming the bot wave. If this happens, like all 3 waves are being farmed, you need to farm jungle camps instead. So right now you should be looking at red, and Raptors, or you could be looking at Wolves and Gromp. Basically, it's not really acceptable to just like not farm for a long period of time. So like, yeah, right now you haven't farmed anything. You get an assist on this guy, but it's not as valuable as if you're just like taking a bunch of jungle camps. So in this time period here, like let's see what happened. You come out of base, or actually, let's see. Okay, so after this wave, 18 minutes, 147 CS. Then let's just skip forward. 19 minutes, still 147 CS. You don't get your next CS for a full minute and 10 seconds later. That's super unacceptable if you're playing a champion that farms as quick as Tryndamere. You need to value yourself, or like, you need to value farm and XP way higher. It's something I've said in like 10 coaching sessions now, but I think it's a problem that a lot of people have, is it should feel really bad for you whenever you're like either sharing golden XP with other people, or you're just not getting any, and you should be like trying to actively find as much golden CS as possible, basically. I also think from a very macro point of view, like if I skip all the way back, it probably is better actually that you just run bot here, or you go red, you go Raptors red bot, because I think it would be better for you to start knocking down these side wave towers. But Vayne overstayed, so it's like you can't really go there anyway. So just skipping forward, I think right now you're kind of on the wrong side of the map. Like it would be much better for you to be pressuring bot, and for like Vayne. I mean, Vayne's not a bad side laner. Actually, Vayne's pretty good side laning, but I think you're obviously better. Oh, they stole the Herald. But you get this kill. Back up, and Vayne gets it. I mean, it's not the worst assignments, I suppose. That guy flashes. This guy's gonna go down. Yeah, this is sort of bad again. I'd say the reason though is a bit different. So it's like a couple of reasons. First, they don't have anyone showing on mid wave. So the reason waves get pushed in before people make plays is so that basically the enemy is forced to show on the wave to farm it. But if they don't show on the wave, that means you don't make a play, because they're just like losing XP and gold for free. So right now, from a macro point of view, if you assess the situation, it's like they're not showing anyone on the map. No one is collecting their mid wave, and your Vayne is on the complete other side of the map. So right now, it's actually a really scary time to be aggressive, and you should probably just be walking away here already. If you do want to chunk this Nasus, like again, you should be looking to E defensively, rather than like Eing into him. So you die really far, and it causes both of you to die. So I think you could have played it better mechanically, or I guess like skirmish wise, and kept your cooldowns. But if you had like kind of assessed the map in this situation, you would have. I think you could come to the conclusion that it was a really bad time to play as aggressively as you did. But it's not. Well, yeah, no, I don't want to say it's not a bad death because it is pretty bad. But at least you pushed away before dying, so could be worse. And come out of base, farm these Krugs. That's nice. Your team's doing Baron because I showed 2 people bot, so that's good. You collect this and you can keep pushing. This is all good as well. Take the Grump. Okay, like your side laning is really good. Probably one of the better ones I've seen so far. You're hitting this tower. Okay, yeah, so this is... Now, we were saying before how if Nasus matches you in the side lane and you feel like you can't do anything to him, then you can roam elsewhere, right? But obviously if no one matches you, you take towers so quick, so you should just chew through these towers. And I think it looks to me like you're probably getting this inhib. I think maybe you could say you're a little bit scared here because like you're Katarina and Blitzcrank are in base, but I think because you have all sums in your R, if anyone does answer you here, you can probably get out in time. But I could maybe understand if you were scared. Okay, so you E away. But you're walking to the fight. Yeah, so I don't really like this. I think here, again, no one is matching you. You can force people here. I think you just hit this inhib, and that way you avoid like a just straight up 5v5 that doesn't really play to your strengths. If people do come to match you, I think you might be able to kill them. And also, like, you can easily get out, right, if they send enough people. So, basically, I think, yeah, this was, like, a bad time to move. It would be good to move, maybe, if Nasus were here, like, stopping you. But Nasus is actually not here right now. So, in this situation, you just take the inhib for free, and you don't have to worry about this fight. You walk over to it, but, like, Tryndamere in this sort of situation is really useless. So... that's basically a free inhib that you could have gotten and would speed up the game a lot. And again, like if you struggle with dealing with champs like Nasus and Kayle, if you can take not a mid inhib but a side lane inhib, normally you should be able to snowball that pressure into winning the game pretty shortly after. But obviously if you do kind of play the side lane badly after that, the inhibitor being down means they get a lot of CS for free. So you just have to make sure you play well after it, but I think that could have been a free inhib. Here. It's all good. Yes, like Nasus is matching you, but I think you could probably just like you could in this situation I think like your team's fighting mid. I'm trying to think. I think if this guy withers you, you E away, but after his withers down, I think you can ignore him, or you could even proxy the wave, or you could just let this wave hit the tower. I think there's a lot of ways where, because of Baron, you can take this tower, where you might not normally be able to. Okay, yeah, so right now, you you didn't do any of these things. Basically, you just walked into Nasus when he has all his cooldowns up, and so you lose your entire health bar for free. I mean, you do get the tower, but you just like lose all your pressure on the map. Like, okay, you get this tower, right? But you also would have lost a lot from like being forced to just be passive on the map here. I think you're out though. You have Ghost and Flash. Okay, you get ganked by this guy. So, yeah, this was super troll. Also, another really bad death. Like, I don't think it matters here because your team is winning so hard. But this was so unnecessary. Like, there are so many ways to get this tower. You can either just wait for this cannon to hit it. You can walk past this tower and just, like, proxy waves. You can, like, pretend that you're going to do something. And then, like, okay, right here, this guy ults and Qs you. You can just E away. And he's used all his cooldowns and you're completely fine. Instead, you, like, really overcommit when he's at his strongest point. So yeah, that was really weird. You die, and the game's over. So yeah, I mean, let's talk about these nodes. So I think for you in the early game, the wave control was really big. I understand this because I've never done like a top lane wave control thing, and it's not really something I intend to do because it is somewhat similar, and also just like I'm not a top laner, right? Like I've played top lane. I've like swapped lanes in competitive, you know, as in like I've been mid but had a better matchup where I've played top. So I have played going to say maybe like 5 to 10 competitive games is top. So I think I understand it pretty well, but I'm definitely not a top laner and I don't know it to the same level. But I think the early wave control, the first 3 waves are really, really, really important, more so in top lane than mid. I think as a general rule top, if you can push 3 waves, cheater, recall, and freeze, it's really, really good. So especially if you don't leash, this is good. If you do leash and they don't, it's going to be quite hard. Also, if they're playing a more difficult champion for you to lane against, or something that's really strong early, like a ranged bully or some of the stronger melees, you might find it hard to just crash 3 waves. Now, it needs to be very clearly, it needs to be a slow push. And I would actually look up an example of a cheater recall, or you could maybe watch some Tryndamere VODs and just like see that this will happen quite a lot. But if you can base with that recall advantage and then freeze the wave, it makes it really, really hard for the enemy to play. I also think, now in mid lane, I would say this is more about cooldowns, but I'm going to say in top lane, it's more about like matchup knowledge. Like, so in mid lane, like punishing cooldowns is like really, really important all the time, right? But in top lane, a lot of the cooldowns don't matter, but there are some that matter a lot. So in this matchup here, there's like 2 or 3 really important cooldowns that you need to think about. So in this matchup, I would say it's like Nasus W, your E, and probably Nasus R. And you need to, like, if you ever have your E and Nasus doesn't have W, that's like a really, really good chance for you to trade. So yeah, I think there were like a couple times where you missed a lot of like damage because of that. I'm gonna put itemization question mark because I'm not sure if the Hullbreaker Rush is better. Like, I just don't know. So that's something for you to look into, and I'm kind of sorry about that. I just don't have enough knowledge about this situation to really recommend you. Like definitively, like I guess I have like thoughts about it. Like, I think Kraken is quite good. Hullbreaker seems like it could help you. It could help you a lot in dealing with these like, or I guess like champs which are a bit harder to dive, because then you can still like do damage with the wave, but ultimately I'm not totally sure. So yeah, I think there were also some stuff in the mid game. So your side laning for the most part was quite good. I think your so team fighting, like target prioritization, I always struggle with this word. So like you need to think about like which targets are the most important. I think also making sure that you have a flank. Like, we only saw one team fight this game, so I didn't really get to see it, but like if you, it's ideal if you can find a flank in a team fight. That being said, you don't always want to look for a team fight, so the general rule for pushing is like push to tower and then like decide to keep pushing or group. And I think it comes down to like, if you feel like you can actually accomplish something in the side lane by staying and hitting that tower or that inhib or whatever, then you should stay. Otherwise, you should just like look to move. Yeah, so I'd say there was that. I also think that there was sometimes where you weren't very aware of the map. So I think just like, I'm gonna put this like reading the map. I feel like there's a lot of times where if you had just looked at the map, it actually wouldn't have helped you. You would have to actually like read the map and like understand what's going on. So like that time where like your Vayne's bot, like the mid wave's pushed up but no one's showing there and you're still being really aggressive top. I think stuff like that, this is a lot harder to learn than just looking at the map. And it's kind of like, it's up to you if you feel like the reason you don't see these things is because you're just not physically looking at the map, or because when you see the map, you just don't like, you don't process, I guess, like the information that it's giving to you. So that's kind of more up to you on what you feel like you struggle with. And if you have questions around that, you can let me know, because I'm not totally sure which one it is for you. I'd say it probably is reading the map though. Also, I'm going to say resource assessment. So there were times where you were very aggressive without key resources. So when you didn't have flash ghost ult, maybe when like your E was on cooldown and they had all their resources up. So say both yours and enemy top laner. This kind of goes back to this like matchup knowledge and like knowing the 2 or 3 really important cooldowns. But I think if you think about just like cooldowns and resources in general, it'll make things a lot easier for you. Yeah, and also the other big thing was feeling bad when sharing / not getting XP / gold. So there was that 1 minute period where you didn't farm anything. That's super bad. Tryndamere is one of those champs where like you farm so quickly and you can stay on the map so long it's not unrealistic to expect to be even above the clock in CS in solo queue, which is like there aren't many champs like that. But Tryndamere is one of those. So if you like look at your CS at the end, like 182 at 23, it's a lot lower than it should be. Like, in my opinion, this game, you have a winning matchup early. The enemy top was weak sided, so you got ganks. Like you received ganks. You were very snowballed. You win the side lane against both their champions. Like their jungler was behind, so he couldn't pressure you. There was like so many reasons this game to where this could literally be like a 10-0, like 250 CS at 23-minute game. And instead, because you kind of like just don't execute things well enough, you're a little bit inefficient. There are times where you're like missing out on a lot of stuff, that you're just like a lot further behind than you should be. And also, that's super important in a lot of these matchups, because there will be breakpoints to where, like, say you hit Serelda's before he hits, say, his 2 items or something. Like, if you're that far ahead, you would just crush him. Like, you would just be able to dive him, right? But then maybe before Serelda's, you might not be able to play the game. So it can be kind of like this weird thing where the matchup can swing, and this happens in top lane a lot, like very heavily around item spikes. So the quicker you can accelerate these item spikes out, the easier a lot of these matchups are going to become. And it can actually make a really big difference, like, to how the matchups play out, and actually get a lot of people, like top laners in particular, wondering about matchups and like asking how they go. And for a lot of people, it can depend a lot just on how good the player you're versing, you know, because if, for example, let's just take an extreme. Let's say the Shy's Jace on average has 2 items at like 15 minutes, and your Jace doesn't have 2 items until 20 minutes. You're going to have a very different experience when you're side laning against some of these tanks. So that's just like a very extreme example, but I just want to kind of like get that out there. So I think that's pretty much it. Honestly, I feel like I didn't have that much to see this game, because like there was only like one team fight. But I think there is some good stuff to learn from this game, and I think if you have any questions about it, you can ask me. So to work on, and what things I'd recommend focusing on the most, I think your first 3 waves management, this should be a really big thing for you. I'd say like watch some Tryndamere VODs and see what they do with their first 3 waves. Alternatively, just like get into the habit of slow pushing 3 waves, cheater recalling and freezing. I think that'll do a lot for you. Also, I think in champ select, or like in loading screen, I'll just put loading screen, like identify like the key cooldowns of the matchup, and I think that'll be another thing that's like really easy for you to fix. But like the team fighting stuff, I feel like, I don't know, I only saw such a tiny part of it, so like it probably is something for you to work on, but the problem is I just didn't see enough to say if it's like a bad habit for you all the time. But some stuff I can say is that I really want to, so you need to become like more efficient getting like gold / XP in the mid game. That'll make a big difference. And then I guess like if you do manage to work on all these, like reading the map can be really good. I think what you could do to kind of learn this is whenever something goes bad, just like kind of remember that time in your head, and then come back to the replay. So come back to the replay and then pause the frame of like, or pause, like maybe go back 30 seconds and just like pause and see all the stuff, like without fog of war, just see everything and think like, how can I kind of see this situation in advance? So yeah, I think if you work on these, you'll see the biggest like increase. But I think the first 3 waves management will actually like revolutionize your gameplay pretty much. Some things that are like really positive, because I sometimes feel like I'm just a bit too mean. Your side laning is really good for Platinum, I think. Like you have pretty good side laning for the most part. So I'm pretty impressed by that. So yeah, that's good. And I think you'll probably like, get to Diamond pretty soon if you like work on a lot of these things. So yeah, anyway, if you have any questions, of course, just message me on Discord or Fiverr or whatever. I'll copy these to you on Fiverr as well. And yeah, and also let me know if you're okay with this VOD being posted publicly. And if not, like if you want to private, it's completely fine. But yeah, thanks for getting some coaching, man, and best of luck.